Joining us now is Democratic Congresswoman Barbara Lee of California, the former chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, as well as the founder and current co-chair of the Congressional Out of Poverty Caucus. She was in attendance when the president addressed the CBC this weekend. Congresswoman Lee, it is great to see you again. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me with you tonight, Rachel.
I am not much of a media critic. I think that probably I'm as damnable as anybody else in the media on any given day, but this really struck me as being very differently represented in the media than it was when I saw it on tape. You were there in the room. Do you think the president's remarks are being fairly represented?
Well, let me say it was a very lengthy and comprehensive speech, Rachel, at least 35 to 45 minutes. Also, I know, some of the controversial comments that have been picked up by the media, they couldn't have been directed to the Congressional Black Caucus and members of the caucus, because as a former member of the Congressional Black Caucus, the president knows how much these great members who have sacrificed so much throughout their lives have made our country better and will continue to fight for justice and for jobs and for equality. And also, I was very pleased in the president's speech. He did talk about the huge numbers of African Americans who are unemployed as it relates to the black unemployment rates. He talked about black children living in poverty, nearly 40%, unconscionable. And so I think that what he said, of course, could have been off script. He could have, in terms of the controversial parts of his speech, for whatever reason. But I do have to say that he knows that we hear the suffering and the cries of the American people who need jobs, who are anxious about jobs. He's heard that as a former member of the Congressional Black Caucus. He knows what we're doing each and every day. And so we want to work with him to make sure that this American Jobs Act gets passed, because this is the first step toward creating jobs. And clearly in the black community, that's what our cry is. And our voices are pleading for Congress and the White House to get together to create some jobs so people can get to work.
With your work in Congress, and specifically your work with the Out of Poverty Caucus as founder and current co-chair of that caucus, you've done as much as anybody to try to bring attention to that aspect of our national economic woes. Do you feel like the president is substantively telling you something that is going to make a difference, that he's talking about his economic agenda, his jobs agenda, and his understanding of poverty issues in a way that resonates with you and that you think is substantive?
I think the president is talking about jobs, why this country has a moral obligation, first of all, to create jobs. We can't have a country that's secure with so many people unemployed. And I'm very happy, as I said earlier, that he mentioned childhood poverty. 40% of African American children live in poverty. And Rachel, I have to say, the reason that I formed the Out of Poverty Caucus when the Bush administration was in, because I knew then that the Bush administration policies and these wars would lead to where we are today, unfortunately. So we have 39 members of the Out of Poverty Caucus. We've been working with the White House on our out of poverty agenda and our jobs agenda, because clearly the best pathway out of poverty is a job. And so that's what we're working on. And I think that the president has heard us, and I'm very proud of Congresswoman Waters and Chairman Cleaver and the Congressional Black Caucus. When you look at what took place in August with the Black Caucus, 5 cities, a jobs tour. What we did was get the jobs debate on the agenda, where now the president has the space and the wherewithal to be able to use his platform, the bully pulpit, to say, look, we have to work together to create jobs.
Congresswoman Barbara Lee, Democrat of California, I want to thank you very much for your work on this continuing issue, and thank you for joining us tonight, ma'am. It's always a real pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. It was so good to be with you, Rachel.
Thank you. A government